Hello and welcome back for anyone watching this. Took a few days off because I went camping with a few of my friends, camping and rafting with some of my friends. So that has put me way back in the number of hours that I need to get to in this 60-hour August 2020 bet challenge thing that I'm doing right now against one of my friends. My friend has to do 10 workouts. I have to do 60 hours of streaming, and he's at workout number 7. So it looks like he's going to be making it to 10 pretty easily, whereas I have a lot of hours to catch up on because I fell behind by not streaming at all during the weekend because I couldn't. So I don't know how long I'll go today. These work days have been pretty long and exhausting, but we'll get started and we'll see what we can do. I will be doing a different tutorial today. So for anyone that's watching this, I've been working on this project, a simple project I started a few streams ago, basically doing everything on stream and not really doing much outside of it. And so I'm just working on this project where someone could find teachers or find schools or find principals. Let's just say that, for someone like me who's has to keep records of visits and stuff like that, or, wants to see, certain records. Instead of using the system that we already do have internally, I thought it'd be kind of cool to try to make my own system. Not that it'll actually end up getting used, but it'll be a good learning experience, and who knows what could happen. Who knows what ideas might come of this, or what I learn in the process of making this. So I created this project that allows me to search for schools, teachers, whatever. Then being able, it's a master detail kind of a layout. And so I used Angular for all this, and then you could see the teacher details if you select a teacher from the master detail view. So over here, let's say I chose teacher 3, it would show up in my teacher detail. But I'm not going to be doing any Angular today, I don't think. I'm going to be focused mostly on the backend stuff. So I believe in the last video I started working on the backend. So let me pull up the code. So I started working on the actual server and what's going to be, what it requires on the back end to be able to serve the pages that will be required, or to be able to hit certain API endpoints in this project. So for example, when I want to actually create teachers, or when I want to create schools or anything like that, I want to be able to use my backend to store this stuff in a database so that the data can persist. Because as of right now, the data that you just saw in that Angular project is only available while that page is open. So I can't save anything, I can't make any changes, nothing persists. Actually, while I'm here, I might as well start my timer. We're at 19 hours, 43 minutes, and 35 seconds. So let me get the counter going. And this counter we created in episode 1 of this live streaming series. It took me a few hours to do, but we got it working, and we made this count up timer because I couldn't find any other project or any other app that I could download and make and actually get it working. So I just decided to make that myself for the first episode, which was kind of fun. And you could feel free to go back and check that out. So in this project, over the past couple of streams, I've been working on, as I said, the server and the database that's going to be storing all the data that you will eventually see on the front end. I did start watching a video. So as I mentioned, did I mention? I'm working on through this course, this complete Node.js developer course that has us building real-world applications with Node, Express, mongoDB. I'm really focused on these 3 technologies. I'm using Node for everything. I'm using JavaScript outside of the browser, Express to be able to do everything without having to create everything from scratch in Node and JavaScript. So Express is a nice library that already has a lot of things built in to create an API, to create endpoints that could serve up pages or files or whatever. And mongoDB is going to be my database, how I'm going to store all of that data that I will be keeping in there. Let's see. Jest, I believe, is for testing, but we'll see if we get to that, but I have no idea. This course is 35 hours, and I'm just blasting through it on my other computer over here on the side, which you cannot see right now, and will be playing the sound that I'm going to be listening to. But I just wanted to leave this here if anyone was interested in purchasing it for $12. It's a steal. This kid Andrew Mead, he's really good. He's a really good teacher, and really good at explaining a lot of these concepts. So I'm going to be doing the course here on the left side, and then changing my code on the right side on the screen that you could actually see right now. Okay, so let's see what else. What else is there to say? What else is there to do here? All right, so I can close this. And I'm going to minimize the browser because I don't even think we're going to even look at our project today. We're going to be doing all this back-end stuff. So, this is stuff that a lot of people maybe don't like because it's not front-end stuff. So it's not like as fun to see green lines on the server. Actually, let me show you what that looks like. If we look at the terminal, let's see. So here's our database. So we could see the connections being made in the database. To the database, like when I run my project and stuff like that. This isn't as fun or as exciting as actually seeing an actual working app that you can push buttons and see things pop up. But this is important nonetheless. I mean, this was me actually using the shell to get into the database and actually play around with the database. So I could see the DBs. I could use schools. I could go into that schools database that I created. What could I see? DB find. I actually don't even remember the commands off the top of my head. I think it's DB. Actually, show collections maybe. There we go. Schools. So db.schools.find. There we go. And we could see that there's 2 items inside of this database right now. Actually, I was testing it last time. Now that I think about it, I was testing it in the browser because I wanted to be able to see if this backend was able to serve up JSON data to the front end or to a client that's requesting the data. So I was doing some of that stuff, and I was using another app called Postman to be able to do some of that backend stuff and kind of see if it worked or not and see what the responses were. So let me just pop open Postman before I forget, because Postman is really great if you're doing backend work. Why is it verifying my app? Maybe there's a more recent version or something that it's going to suggest I download. Maybe not. We'll see. Okay. Finish verifying because we need you, Postman. Okay. It's just really slow to load. And speaking of loading, the new computer that I bought a couple weeks ago was supposed to come tomorrow, and it's been postponed. The delivery's been postponed until the 24th of August, unfortunately. I don't know, it's still stuck in Shanghai, China or something, according to UPS. So, we'll see when we get that. That's going to be very close to the end of the bet. Maybe we'll do a really long stream. I was talking with one of my friends over the weekend about doing a 26-hour long live stream. Which sounds crazy, but it would be kind of fun to try and see if we could make it through. I don't even know if I could talk for 26 hours. We decided on 26 hours to try to do a marathon type of live stream. Okay, so it was just updating. That's why it was going so slow, I guess. Okay, so now with let me try to get back in the mindset of what was going on here. So what we were doing when we were trying to see what the list of schools or get the schools data, we ran a GET request against this endpoint, the schools endpoint, and run a GET request against that. Okay, so when I hit send, this should hit the database. Oh, actually, it's not hitting the database. The connection is getting refused, possibly because maybe my database isn't running or the connections aren't open for some reason. Or you know what? Because I'm not running my server.js. I'm not running my server right now. So it's not going to be responding to any requests. So let us, believe I was running the server in my terminal here in VS Code. So I'm going to actually run it in the actual terminal here. That way I don't take up some coding space, so it doesn't get a little confusing when we see that. So let me run, what's the name of the file? Server.js. So let me type in node server.js. I don't need to put in the JS. So that is now listening at localhost 3000. So now we should be able to run some requests here to this address. So let me go back to Postman, see if we can. Let us send that GET request. and we receive back some data. So down here at the bottom, we could see the response. We got a 200 status response, which is good. We have our first item in here. So it has the ID, the name, the principal, the address, and the second item with the name, principal, address. Great. Okay, so that works. And we also created an endpoint that allowed us to add stuff to this database. So that was using a post request, using that HTTP method of post and the create endpoint. And for that, we needed to pass in, we need to make sure that in the body of the request, we had, I believe, yes, the name, the principal, and the address. Now, there was one thing that I noticed actually when I didn't rewatch the entire video, but I was skipping through it, and I noticed that if I left one of these out last time, I didn't get any errors. Like, it didn't stop me or prevent me from adding, like, you know, just the name. Like, let's say I remove these. Let's say I just send the name to to this endpoint, the create endpoint. I should be getting back an error saying, hey, you didn't submit principal and an address as well. But when I do this now, so if I hit send right now, it sends the request and it does say missing name, principal, and or address, but I believe it still gets added to the database. So let me go back to my database and hit send. Oh, maybe not. Oh, you know what it is? I was catching it a different way. Now that I think about it, I do remember how I was catching that mistake, but I think I went about it the wrong way. So what I did was if the person didn't submit a principal, an address, or a name, so that's what line 26 does, it catches any of those cases, then it sends back the status 500 error and the JSON that you know has the error property here that says missing name, principal, and or address, but it's not very specific. And it says return here. I think what I could do is just return this entire line if I want to, just like that. So we could refactor that just a little bit, hit save, and that should work as well. But I think there's a different way of doing this without having to create my own error statuses here. And the way that I do that is if I create the schema correctly. So over here, when I create the model, or I create the model correctly with my school schema. Over here, the way I did it, I didn't make any of these properties required. So that's why before I added line 26, before I added this conditional, I was able to add a school with missing fields, which is not what I want. I want to make sure that when I create a school or I add a school, that the school has a name, the school has a principal, the school has an address, just to start off, to get these three properties going. So the way to do that, let me just Google this. Mongoose, like require field. Let's start with that. Validation. Okay, so the way to do that, if you look at this, we have to, instead of saying that name is just a string, we have to pass it an object. So name is going to be an object of type string and of required, that property being true. So let me just copy this so I know exactly where I could use this. And in my Visual Studio Code, instead of having the name be just be a string and not have any requirements, I'm just going to replace this with what I just copied from the documentation. So I have to give it a type, and it's going to be of type string, just like before. But I have to make sure that it is required. Same thing with principal. They're all strings, so I can just paste what I grabbed from the other side. I'm going to hit save, and now I should be able to remove lines 35 through 39. I should be able to remove this catch, or this area where I caught if there was a name, a principal, or an address missing. I should be able to catch it, or it should return to me an error without me having to actually code that in. So let me save this. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, when I saved it, it's not refreshing the server. So I have to make sure, instead of doing node, where is it? Where's my server? Here we go. Instead of doing node server, I'm going to do node mon server. So that was another node package that I installed a few days ago, a few live streams ago. And what that does is, if it notices that the file has any changes, or if it sees that any changes have been saved to that file, it'll refresh that file. It'll rerun it. So nodemon or nodemon is better than node sometimes because I'm going to be updating the server and fixing it up. Okay, so the server is starting and the app is listening at localhost 3000. Okay, so let's go back to Postman and let's see if we can post, once again, let's see if we can post create, but in the body, we're not going to pass the name, the principal or the address. So we're just going to pass it a name, and I'm going to change the value to hello, just because I want it to be something different. In case it does go through, I could find it in the database. But when I hit send, I should be receiving an error. I should get an error. Could not get a response, socket hang up. Okay, so that's also not good. In that, someone using the app or someone developing has no idea why this isn't working. So we may want to leave in what I had before, because this says exactly what the error is. So you may be wondering why would he cancel it out and then put it back? But the reason really is because I wanted to make sure that my schema was correct. So I did, the project knew that the name, the principal, and address were all required. I could have the address be not required, just make it false, make the value of required false. But for this project, I want all three to be required. And it got hung up. It didn't give me a good response. I'm trying to think where I should respond. Where would be a good place to respond or send the correct response value? Because I think the correct response is 500 for an error. So, and I could be wrong about that, but I'm gonna leave that there for now. I'm gonna leave this error handling code, I guess, in there for now. Let me see if there's anything else that I can modify to make this a little bit better. Let's see, if error, return next. Right, so that's another thing that was kind of confusing about using Express, is that when you're done, you want to return next so that it keeps going. So apparently if you have certain things called middleware, or a lot of them, you want them to keep going to the next one, I guess. Let's see. So if there's an error, it doesn't get hung up, I guess. I guess right here, if there is an error, we return next and pass the error. Or if everything's okay, we just return the JSON response 201. So let me add return in there, just so it's a little bit more readable. So I'm gonna hit save, and that should update my server. So when I do save a new school, it's going to send back not error code, but the code 201, and it should send back the actual thing that was posted, the school that was added or saved, right? Let me see, school save. I also noticed that I'm mixing here the the old school functions. I'm trying to think if I should make this an arrow function. I think I should, just to kind of be consistent, but it might cause some issues later on. Possibly. I'm actually not 100% sure if that will, but I think we're okay. So I just hit save again, and just to make sure that everything still works, I'm going to go back to Postman. I'm going to create the hello ABC ABC. So the name is hello of the school. So when I hit send, we get back the response of hello ABC ABC. So we get back the JSON object that we just added to the database. And now that is in our database, which is good. So eventually I'm going to have a create school or create whatever page in that Angular project, and I could enter in those whatever I want for the name, the address, the school, the name, the principal, the address to the text boxes, and then I hit submit, and it sends it to this endpoint on my server, and it will get added to the database. And if there's any errors, then it'll send back that JSON, and then I could show that on the front end if I want, so that the user could see, okay, the name is required, or whatever the error might be if someone leaves something out. Okay, so that was one thing I wanted to fix a little bit. So there was this one thing. What else? I also saw that people were adding, having it create an index automatically. And this is something my friend mentioned, that if I was to have a huge data set, I do want to index the database. So I think it was like use create index and set that equal to true. Does this tell me what will happen? This connection will use create index instead of ensure index for automatic index builds. So it'll automatically index my database and make it faster, more performant if someone does a search on it. So that's one more thing that I wanted to fix or change. Although at this point I only have like 3 items in the database, so it's not really gonna make any difference. But if I was to have like hundreds or thousands, it'd probably be a good practice to make sure I add this key value pair inside here. Let's see what else. So we have our create. This is how we create a new school, and when we get a school, this is how we get all of a list of the schools in the database, or all of the schools returned back. Once again, I actually want to return that. I believe it'll still work either way. Hello, Sebastian. We have a Green Day fan in here. I'm gonna remove the console.log. I'm just gonna add return here, just so it's easily understandable that this is going to return the array, a JSON array with all of the objects in there of the database. As of right now, we're just sending back the entire database. Eventually, like if I'm going to do a find, I'm going to have to create those functions in here in the server also, so that the front end can be more specific in what it's looking for instead of getting back all of the data. I wish I could play some music actually, but I think I'll get like a copyright strike. I've gotten a few copyright warnings or whatever just from the intros to these videos when I used to have like music playing in the background on the countdown timer. But so I'm just not going to put music and not deal with those consequences. Let's see, is there anything else that I want to fix on this? Okay, I think that's it for now. So we have our post, we have our get. We need to have an update and a delete. Let's see. So I guess for update and delete, we need to know the object ID of the item that we want to find in the database and then delete. So that's going to be something that I'm going to have to implement. Nice dab there. So that'll be something I'll have to implement in a little bit. But we'll get to that when I get to it in the course. So in case you missed it, I am going through a course right now that is helping me figure out how to create the backend to this project. And that is Andrew Mead's course on Node.js. And it's in Udemy, I found it. So this one is called the Complete Node.js Developer Course, 3rd edition. This is what I'm going through right now on my other computer with my AirPods in here. So I'm going to be kind of quiet here and there while I'm listening and seeing what he does, and then I'm going to be explaining what it is that I have to do on my project to make sure that it's working correctly. Another thing I could do to show that the database is working is I can go to localhost 3000, localhost 3000, which is our database. And it says cannot get. Why is that happening? Oh, because I have to. It's localhost 3000/schools. I did not create one for the empty path. Okay, so when I do /schools, I get back all the schools that are in the database. So that's cool. We have some data persisting in the backend. That's great. And now I will continue with this course. So let's see what I got to do now. Okay. Mongoose. Okay, I did that okay. Okay, so what he's doing is he's using promises instead of the way that I'm doing it, which is using the callback way. Okay, so I could modify mine to be more readable and use promises. You know what? Let's do that. Let me cut this out. So it's going to save the school, and then we'll have a .then, and we'll also have a .catch. So if we have an error, we'll catch that error, and then we will spit it back. Actually, this in the .then we're gonna have a function. So let's do an arrow function here, and this is where I think we're gonna put the code that we just had. Yes. Okay. So, or something very similar. If this works. So okay. So instead of doing it like this, hold on. Let me start that over again. Let's put a function in the catch that will get an error as the argument, and if we do get an error, then we're gonna console.log that error out. Okay, and actually maybe what we should do is we should maybe return. Okay, so this is where it gets a little bit tricky. Return a response. Can you do like error? Okay, let's do a response dot error. Don't want to do it like that. Might have to remove that first. Okay, so res dot error or error. I believe it's going to be error, because then we can pass it whatever the input was. So it's going to be dot. Actually, we should do dot status first of 500. So we had some sort of error, and then dot error, which is going to be the actual error. So this will probably get passed as the error, whatever it receives. Okay. Now in here. So that I could remove this. Okay. And if everything goes fine, then I can, do I get anything back? Do I get the, maybe it's not going to be the post. It's going to be, you know what? I'm going to just respond, instead of the post, I'm just going to respond with the school that was created, the school right up here. And we'll see if this works. So let me remove this function. I'm going to hit save, and it fixes my code up a little bit. So I think this might be a little bit more readable than what we just had, if this is correct. I'm not 100% sure if it is. So let us test it out. Let's go to our Postman. And we just fixed up the saving mechanism. So let's see if we are able to save a new school to the project. So the name will be Apple, the principal will be Banana, and the address will be Kiwi. So let's try that. Let's see if we're still able to create a school like this. So I'm going to hit send, and we get back the school that was created. Okay, so it looks like it did work. And what I could do to test or to kind of see what's already in there is go back to my, let me go back to my get request up here, this tab. I could run the request, the get request, and I should be able to see that school at the bottom. Apple, Banana, Kiwi is in my database. Great. Let me test out to see what happens if if I leave out, let's say, the address. So I should get an error saying that, well, let me see what happens in the save. I should get an error, and it's going to respond with a status of 500. Whereas when it went correctly, it responded with the status of 201, which I should be able to see in Postman right here, 201 created. Perfect. The request has been fulfilled and resulted in a new resource being created. Perfect. So now if I run this post request without the address, I should get an error, a 500 error. And let's see if that works. So I hit send, and we get a 500 internal server error, missing name, principal, and or address. And that is what I wanted. And let me just make sure that it didn't get added into the database, which we can see right here. So let me hit send, and we could see that apple, banana, kiwi was the last one that we got. There is no other there's no other school in the database. So that's great. This is our code is still working, and it's just a little bit more readable, and it's using the promise way of doing things rather than callbacks. Is there anything else I want to kind of do here? Oh, and that error that it got came from, oh, it came from up here. So I guess when it got up to here, it saw that one of these was missing. It didn't work. Actually, let me comment out my lines 36 through 40 just for a second again. So let me hit save, and let me try running that again without the address and seeing what the error that it says is. Or maybe we don't get an error. Maybe we get another hang up. Yeah, so once again, it's just stuck. It's just, it's not closing the connection. We're just not getting anything back, I guess. So I think that's probably not the way to go. So let me cancel. I probably, yeah, I guess here this status is not working correctly. Maybe what I could do is I could console.log the error, but I do want it to kind of like, but then it'll only show the error in the, maybe it's not .error that we have to do it with. Maybe we have to fix this. So this we might have to fix. May have to fix this later, but I don't want to get hung up on like error detection right now. So this doesn't work the way that it is as written, but with this line of code, these lines of code, this conditional, it works well enough for our purposes right now. Let me continue watching. Okay. Actually, there's another program that I have installed that will allow me to see the database. So let me pop that thing open. It's called Robo3T. So that will allow me to look at a mongoDB database. Let me just connect to it. And I should be able to see the databases here, wherever it is. Here it is, schools. All right, so let's, do I have to open the shell? No, I don't think so. Let me, refresh. Okay, we have our schools database. We have our schools collection. It actually has the index in there. Let me see if I can view the documents here. And let me make this a little bit smaller so you can all see what I'm looking at. Okay, so this is just another program that allows me to see the database that I've created in MongoDB. You can see the object IDs. So this is something I kind of mentioned for a split second, where every single item that gets added to the database is given an object ID. And so this is just a fancy way, maybe not fancy, but there is a method to decoding what an object ID actually is. Like it's like a timestamp and like says some stuff about there's stuff in there that could be useful potentially. But regardless, what the idea is that every single item in my database will have an object ID, and so eventually when I want to update something, I could use the object ID to find it and then change one of its properties. So let's say, for example, someone misspells the name and then wants to update it. I can create that functionality so that they can do that. Okay, so we see our 4 items in our database. Apple, banana, kiwi was the last one we added, and each one has a underscore v field, and I think that's just like the version of that thing in the database. So if I update it, it'll go from 0 to version 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. 0 would be the first one, and that is of type integer, 32 bits. Okay. Okay, so let's see. And we have our 3 strings. Perfect. And I think with this, the nice thing about this is I should be able to delete some of these things in the database. So I can just right click delete, and it'll make it really easy for me to delete these objects in the database if I don't want them anymore, rather than having to go into the shell and figuring out a way to figuring out the code to delete all these things. Right now, it's just a very nice little graphical user interface. All right, so let's see what else I have to do, or what else I can do based on this tutorial. Oh, you know where my this code could help, or the type could help. What if I try to pass in a number, for example? So that's what he's doing to show his error handling. Let me actually see how that works. Let's see if we pass it so for the address, let's pass the number 123 and see what actually happens when I try to submit that. So now it shouldn't be getting caught up here because none of it will be undefined, but we should be getting caught right here with the error. Hopefully, I mean, I don't know if it'll actually work, but we'll try it. So let's try to create that with a number for the address. It went right through apple banana 123. So it looks like it just changed that number into a string. Let me go back to Robo3T. Let me refresh how do we refresh this? There we go. Apple banana 123. Yeah, it just converted it to a string, which is not what I wanted. I wanted to make it a number. I wanted to see what would happen if that was actually a number. Okay, well, it doesn't really matter for now. But that is just something that he was showing in his in the project. I guess what I could do is I could hard code the address to be 123 here. So this should be identified as a number. Let me just hit save. Let's see what happens if I'm trying to break this on purpose. So now I don't pass in an address because it's going to automatically assign one when it gets there. And let's see what happens. We should still get the error. Okay, error, missing name. Oh, it gets caught up on the other one, that there's a missing name, principal, and/or address. So let us remove this for now. So let me hit save. Let's go back to Postman and run that one more time. And it goes right through, no problem. Oh my goodness. All right, well, that's okay. That's not a problem. So let me just add back the address. Let's remove that. Okay. I guess I can't, I'm not doing a good job of breaking it, but that's okay. So let's continue. I think what's happening though is that the address, it's supposed to be of type string, and JavaScript doesn't really have types built in. So it's just automatically says, hey, 123 could be a string also. So let's just run it as a string. Actually, you know what? Let's see if we can break it. Maybe if I make address a number and hit save, and then I try to send in um, clearly a string, apple 2, let's say. Will it break? Okay, it looks like it's broken. It's just not sending back an error in like a timely manner. So that is, okay, so that's somewhat relieving in that, okay, that is able to detect that it's supposed to be a number. So that is data validation. So we're validating that our data is of the right type. But as I mentioned before, if you just pass in a number, JavaScript will treat it as a string, which isn't really what I want, but we're going to leave it like that for now. Okay, so he's talking about validation and sanitization, which is like if someone types in a name but has like a bunch of spaces in the beginning, it'll remove those spaces. But I don't really care about that, and I don't really care about like, I mean, I just have 3 items I'm looking for here. I'm not really like worried about validation. Like I don't have an email address that I'm requesting here or requiring here, so I'm not really gonna worry about this. Let me just skip through. Or passwords even. Okay, let's go on to the next video. How do we structure this? You know what? Let's see if we can get the update and delete parts working. Okay, so let me go over to Express.js and I'm going to do the update mongoDB. Let's see what we can find there. Oh, this is going to be, no, this is not what I want because it's going to be using the mongoDB driver, but I want to use mongoose. So Express.js mongoose update mongoDB. All right, this one's from January 2020, so it's pretty recent. Okay, let's see. Find one in updates. Okay, so this is going to be the, so it's going to be, it might be the put method. So, okay, so we could, I think this would work. So we're going to do update one, and then we're going to find it by the specific object ID that we're looking at. How am I going to capture what the object ID is, though? I'll have to figure that out. Update one. I think it's going to be find one and update. All right, let's see. So we'll do in our Visual Studio Code. So update is going to be app dot, I guess it's going to be either, it might be put. Let's see what put says. Well, let's try it with put. And this is going to be slash update. And we want to pass it the actual object ID of that we're looking for, of the thing that we're trying to update. So let us do let's do colon ID, and now same idea. So now we could have a, I believe, a request, a response. We'll do an arrow function in there, and we should be able to console.log, maybe the ID. I think we should be able to do something like that just to see it in action, just to see if this actually does work. So update, and then whatever I pass in here should be console.logged on the server. So that's going to be in my terminal window. Let's see if this works. Not 100% sure that it will, but it's going to be update, and then if I pass in anything, so this anything is what should get logged out. So I'm not worried about passing any other items in the body. I'm just going to see if this works. So when I hit send, okay, I got some sort of error. Oh, it said post, so this has to be a put. Let me do a put. Okay, I still got an error. ID is not defined. So why am I not able to see? All right, so if we look at what it did to the server, it just kind of crashed it. ID is not defined. So it's not able to access ID directly like that. So maybe what it has to access is the parameter, the params. How do we access params? Is it request.params.id? Is that how it works? Because it is coming from the request. So let's see if we could. Let's see if this works. Let's try this again. I hit send. It looks like it's stuck. It hasn't sent an error, so that's not completely bad. If we look back here, anything. Okay, so here, this is it. This actually works. So we were able to, actually, I think I'm blocking it. I think I'm blocking it right now. So as you can see, I'm able to capture what is passed in as the last part of the path here as anything. I have to remember that the bottom left you're not going to be able to see. So maybe I'll just make that a little bit smaller. Okay, so that's great because now, I mean, right now it's still the request is stuck, but that's probably because I'm not doing response dot whatever. So let me go back here. Maybe I could just do res.next. I think that's what I have to do, something like that. I'll figure out exactly what I need to do. So with that underneath the console.log, it should close out that connection, I believe. Let's try it out by typing in just like some random number, and then I hit send, and there we go. I mean, we get an error. Res.next is not a function. Maybe that's not the right way to do it. But in our terminal, we got that big number that we res.next, response.next. So what is it? Res dot something, or return res.json. I guess maybe we'll say all good. What should I say? The message is, all good. And that might work. That might like close out the connection so it doesn't get stuck. Let's test it out in Postman. So I'm going to run it again with a bunch of A's as the final path. And we get the message back, all good. Okay, so perfect. So A-OK, everything's okay, A-OK. And if we look at our server, we are able to capture that, a bunch of A's here. So what I'm going to pass to this endpoint is the object ID of the item that I'm trying to change or update in the database. Okay, so for now I'm going to have to do everything manually, but eventually I'll be able to use Angular to identify like which teacher or whatever I'm looking at that I have to update, and then I'm going to pass that to this endpoint correctly here. So instead of console.logging, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the item in the database using the ID the params that we have here. So what I can do is like maybe I could do a const item to update. That's a very very understandable constant name. And I'm going to set that equal to the request.params.id. So instead of console.logging that, I'm going to use the item to update, whatever it gets passed, I'm going to search for that item in the database using this variable or this constant. And let's see if we could see exactly how to do that. So I'm going to, I'm going to use update 1. So how do I use that with my database? Or is it, yeah, find one and update. So let me actually Google mongoose find one and update. And find one and remove will be the delete, I'm assuming. But I should probably have a delete that will clear out the entire database also. Eventually, just because, actually maybe that's dangerous, but we'll see. Find one and update, how do we do this? Okay, so once again, this is using a wait, which I'm not familiar with. So let's see if there's another way to do it. Or maybe I'll just use it and figure out how it works right now. Let's see. Mongoose's find one and update is slightly different than mongoDB's find one and update because it returns the document itself, not a result object. Okay, as an alternative, you could also use the return original option. Filter. So you have to pass in what you're looking for. So I'm going to pass in the object ID that I'm looking for from the params and what the update should be. So it looks like this is adding age. So it's finding Jean-Luc Picard and it's adding the age object here to that. I mean, we could see if it works. Okay, let's copy this and then we'll modify it for our purposes here. and returns the document. Find one and update returns the document as it was before update was applied. Why would it do that? Like, that just doesn't make any sense. If you make a change to a document, you should get the updated one. But you should set the new option to true to return the document after the update. I don't know why they did that, but we'll figure that out. So we're going to use this code and see if we can get it working, or something similar to this. Let's go back to Visual Studio Code. I'm just going to paste that all in here so I could, like, you know, read off of it. See how I'm going to do this. Maybe I'll use the same idea here. Let doc equal, okay. So here, we're going to find the item. So let doc equal await, and it's going to be school dot find one and update. Now the filter, so let me see how this works. So there's going to be 3 arguments here. We're going to have the filter, the update, and the third object, which is new equals true. So the filter should be what we're looking for. So we are filtering for, actually let's do that. Let's do const filter, just like we have it there. So it's like easy to read. And we're going to be searching for the, not the name, the object ID. So that is going to be that property, object ID, I believe. And that is going to be the item to update. We'll see. We'll see if that works. This might not be formatted right, because I think I have to cast this to this type because it's like a special type, something like that. We'll see. We'll see. Let's try it the other way, and then we'll fix it if it doesn't work right. So that's the filter, and now the update, const update. Let's just so let's change the name to you know, ZZZ. So whichever thing we update, it's going to be changed to that name. Its name is going to be changed to that. Is this how we do object ID? Let me see in the database what that looks like. So we have the object ID, and it looks like a string in there, but it's of type object ID. Oh no, here we go. It's underscore ID. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, so I'm going to be looking for, not for object ID, but underscore ID, and that is going to be an object, the correct object. Okay, so I'll fix that out. I'll figure that out. So how do we do this? So we're going to pass in filter. We're going to pass in the update. We're going to change the name to ZZZZ. Let me just make sure that this has the, okay, I think that's right. We'll see. And the last part that we have to pass in is the new true. So that way when we get a response, we get back the new document, not the old one before. Okay. So now, let me send back, instead of the message, can we send back the entire doc? Or maybe let's see if this works. Can we send back the entire doc like that? Oh wait, I don't know if that's written correctly though. And when I hit save, it's not like changing anything. So that makes me a little nervous that I did something a little wrong. Find by ID and update. No, not find by ID, it's find one and update. Find one and update. Okay. Yeah, item to update is not a string. It's of type object ID. So I think I have to change that to, I have to cast it like this. So now that it knows that it is item to update is of this type, but for some reason that doesn't look like it's right. Item to update is a string. Well, that's a string, but what's this? It's of type any? I'm not 100% sure if that's right. But I guess there's only one way to find out. Let us save this and let's pass in an object here. So let's update. Let's update this one. Apple banana 123. So let me copy the value of ID. That looks so weird though. Object ID. We'll see. Let me pass that as the. Oh, no, hold on. Let me remove all of that before it. So this is the object ID that I'm trying to find. And when I do update, when I just run this, it should, I mean, in theory, it should look in the database, find this exact object, and update its name. And that's it. And then we should get back the message. What should we get back? We should get back the new document. I mean, that's the idea, but I don't think this will work, but we'll see. So let me hit send. Could not send request. Connection refused. So why is that? What is going on? Does the database, sorry, does the server tell me anything? Await. Okay, so maybe that I can't use await like that. Await is only valid in async function. So I got to figure out how to use await there. Let's see. Where's the async? I don't see async here. They just have awaits everywhere. Async. Okay, maybe not. Is there any way to see how to do it without? Mongoose update document by ID. Oh, this is the same one I was looking at before. Oh, but this might work. Find by ID and update. Oh, so maybe it is find by ID and update, not find one and update. I mean, we could try. Why not? Maybe let's try that. Find by ID and update. Instead of await, let's see how we actually run this here. So this is the function, request response. This isn't what I like to see. It gets a little tricky now because we have so many different things to ways to do this. Find one and updates. I'd still rather use find one and update. So let's see if we could use this. This answer has gotten a lot of upvotes, so we'll see. We'll see if this is the one. So instead of doing it like this, let's do the query is the, okay, so this is the ID that we're searching for. Find one and update. This is the filter that we're looking for. They're calling it query over here. That's fine. Don't know if that's how we find it by the ID. You know what? Maybe we should do find by ID and update. And then we only have to pass it the item to update, I believe, like that. So I'm just going to remove that filter and just put it in here as the first argument. What are we going to update we're going to update the name to that. So once again, it's like, there's no need to break it apart, I don't think. And new equals true, so we get back the response. Hopefully new still works, so we get back a good response here. And I'm not going to set that equal to let doc. We're just going to do it like this, synchronously. And I mean, I guess, I don't know. What is it going to return then? Find by ID and update. Let's see if in the documentation it tells us. Oh, or in what they have here. rec.user.username, no. Upsert is true, so the upsert would be if it doesn't exist in the database, it would insert it automatically. And here we have a callback. Okay, so I guess we're going to use that way of doing things. Find one and update, and instead of having the return there, what we're going to do is, okay, we have that. I'm going to leave new equal to true, okay. And then I'm going to add the function here, the error or the document that gets spit back to us. And actually I can make this an arrow function, I believe. And I think it'll still work fine. Okay, so that is going to, let's see. If there's an error, we could use this right here. Successfully updated. And we could pass the doc. Successfully updated that. So let me delete all this. We don't need this return anymore. If we get an error, we're going to return the error like so. And if it works, it's going to say successfully updated and send us back the doc. And hopefully this works. The item to update works. All right, so let's test it out. Let's go back to Postman. I think I'm passing it correctly. Moment of truth here. So we're going to hopefully change this item from the database in Robo3T from Apple Banana 123 to ZZZZ as the name, I believe. The name, yes, will be changed. Let's find out. Okay, let me run that. Let me send. And we get back a response. Okay, so that's interesting. Did that work? The item to update. Oh, we got an error. Never mind. Of kind object ID. So we got an error. It didn't work. And we could see that it didn't work because in Robo3T, if I refresh this, we'll see that the name hasn't changed. It's still Apple. Okay, but in our error object here, let's see what it says. Item to update. Kind is object ID, value. So maybe I'm not using the, hello David, good to see you. Maybe I'm not using I'm not passing the argument incorrectly. Maybe I'm not passing that right. Find by ID and update. So let us, let's see what we can find. Mongoose find by ID and update, and see if we can find some good examples of it actually working. Let's go into the mongoose API. Find by ID and update. All right, there's 47 of them. Here we go. Find by ID and update. Okay, so ID, update, options, and callback. What? Maybe my options aren't correct. Okay, here's the options. Let's see. If you set new equal to true, find one and update, but wow, this documentation's horrible. But I think I set that right. If you don't include any update operators in update monk, no. Oh, maybe I have to set it like this. Find one and update. Wait. Find one. Find by ID and update. Oh, these are equivalent. So I could just pass in the ID. Maybe I don't need to put it in an object. So maybe that's why it's not working. So I could just pass it like so. Then that's going to change the name to this. New is set to true, so it should return back a the updated document. Let's see. Let's test it out in Postman. Yes, I think. Yes, we did it. We successfully updated this item in our database. Cool. So now when I go back to Robo3T, if I update this, if I refresh this, how do I refresh this? Okay, I'm just going to do Command R, but this apple should become ZZZZ. Let me open it. Uh-oh, didn't work. Why is it saying successful if it wasn't successful? Oh no. Or maybe I update. Oh, there it is. I updated the wrong one. Yeah, let me just double check that that's correct. 5F3C676 are the last three. 5F3C676. Okay, so it did update it. It updated it correctly. All right, so we're good. That works. So we can update our things here. We can update our. Wait, did that work right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it did. 676, 676. Yeah. Okay, so we can update. Let me update the one below it. Let me copy its value, or let me view the document here, and then let me just copy that part of it. So let me update the other one to also say ZZZZ. So let me pass that. Let me hit send, and that should have worked. So now when I refresh my thing here, we should see that both of these are named ZZZZ. Okay, great. I'm surprised that the version or this underscore V didn't get updated to 1 for both of these. Not 100% sure why that happened. Okay, well, it doesn't matter as long as my thing's updating. Okay, so that works. Successfully updated, and it passed me the document that was updated. Perfect. Okay. So let's see. So we're gonna have to be able to, on the front end, we're gonna have to make sure that we pass in the object of the item that someone's trying to update, if they need to update it, right? And we're gonna have to grab what the new name should be. So maybe. Okay, so when we actually run this event or run this on the front end, we also have to pass in like the updated name, address, principal, whatever it is. Okay. All right, so I'll take note of that. I'll remember that. I'll try to remember that. So when we get to that in the future, so we have that working for us. Okay, so now we have update working. Let us get the delete request working. So I'm assuming that delete's going to be very similar to find by ID and update. Except instead of a put, we're going to do an app.delete. And now we have to pass in the path. So it's going to be /delete. And we're probably also going to pass it by ID. So we're going to pass the ID that we want to delete. Next, we're going to have the request, the response, most likely. And let's see how we do that. Let's see if we can see, or if we can find how to, how to delete an item from our database here. GitHub Pages is down. What? Let us look inside of documents, maybe? No. All right, so it looks like mongoose is down. So let me just do mongoose JS find one and delete, or find one and remove. That's what it is. Find one and remove. Okay, here we go. Let me keep finding it until I get the right one. Not delete model, but find one and remove the specific item. Not remove. Let me find one and remove. That way I don't get so many matches. Here we go. Okay, so how do we do this? We have to we have to get the conditions. So I'm guessing the conditions are what we're looking for. Conditions is an object. What we're actually looking for. So probably the ID of what we're looking for. Let me see if I could Stack Overflow it. Let's look in Stack Overflow, mongoose, find one and remove. So this one might work. This is a little old, so maybe let me see if I can find something a little bit more recent. Find one and remove from 2017, maybe. Find by ID and remove. So this is going to be very similar. Okay, so I think I could do it just like we did the other one. Find by ID and remove. We're going to get the ID and pass it a function. Pass it the callback function. Okay, which is going to look very similar to the other one. So let's go back to Visual Studio Code. So it's going to be school, which is the model. Find one, or find by ID and remove. Let's see, and we're going to pass it the item to remove, which I have to set up here. So let's do const item to remove and set that equal to the request dot params dot ID. So we can get the ID of what they're trying to remove. And then I think we just pass the callback function. So we're going to do an error or the, will it spit back the doc? What are we returning here? Data. I guess we'll see what the data is. Data all gone and deleted, yo. Whoever coded this is like thinks like me, because I always write like this. Okay, let's see if this works. So we'll leave it with doc. It's an arrow function here. We'll do if error return risp.send 500, and we'll pass in that error object with whatever error it is it receives. Otherwise, we're going to return deleted the doc, yo, or deleted item. And then I actually am curious to see what it actually passes as a response. So we're going to put doc there and see what it actually says. So it's going to be very similar. So I'm going to go into Postman. So instead of update, it's going to be delete. And instead of put, it's going to be delete, the HTTP method that we're going to use. So if I hit send, it should delete this item. So it ends in 634. Let's look at my Robo3T. 634 is this last one down here. You can see 634. All right, moment of truth here. Let's hit send. And deleted item, and it spit back the item that was deleted. So if I look back at my database and I refresh it, there should just be 3 items here. Perfect. Okay, so now we're able to update and delete items from the database. So we have most of our methods here, I think, working fine. Let me just clean that up a little bit. So it spits back the item that it deleted. We'll see if that's necessary to like actually say, hey, you know, this is the one that you deleted. That's fine. All right, so for now, I think I'm pretty satisfied with what we have so far. We have our get request, we have our delete, we have our update, and our create. So we have like the CRUD methods here, the create, read, update, delete. So good, we are making some progress. It took a while, 21 hours in, and we are finally, I guess, a bit closer to where we want to be. But still probably only like 3% of the way there. If you're looking at the entirety of the project, we are not exactly where we want to be, but you know, we have some time. We have about 40 hours left, or 39 hours left to see what we come up with. We're not even halfway there, so we have plenty of time. All right, so I'm gonna keep seeing what this guy teaches in the video. Okay. Okay, so it looks like he's going to go into creating all these endpoints, kind of like what we just did. So he has creation, reading. He's talking about promises here. Maybe this might be a good place to stop for today, now that I think about it. So we have our CRUD operations working. We could call that, we could take the W and stop right here. Yeah, I think we'll do that. We'll stop right here. As I said, we'll just take the W. We'll take a knee, and that's it. We're gonna stop for today. All right. So for anyone that's made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Today we got all the CRUD functionality working on our back end. We're probably gonna have to. We're gonna have to come back to this and really fix it up a bit. Thank you, Dave. Yeah, of course you want me to stop. We're gonna have to come back to this and fix it up a little bit so that obviously we don't just change the name to that, but we change whatever part of the school that we're trying to fix up. What else? I think that's it. I think we're happy for today. Even though we would like some more hours, but I am exhausted. Today was a long day. Tomorrow's gonna be a long day. Thursday's gonna be a long day. So I don't know. I guess this weekend I have to do a big push because I'm not gonna have much more time. Although I don't know. What's the calendar looking like? I'll fix it. I'll check it out. I'll figure it out. But I guess on the weekends we're gonna have to put in some serious hours. All right. So thank you for watching. I will catch you next time. Bye for now. Have a good night or have a good day, whatever time you're watching this.